While the MLB draft isn't quite as notable as the NFL or NBA drafts, where players make immediate impacts and can turn around franchises from the moment they're drafted, organizations who are good at drafting and developing talent are the teams who continuously contend, and a great draft class can turn around the luck of a franchise in due time. The goal of this video, similarly to my 2011 prospects video, is to take a look back at the top 10 picks from 10 years ago. The 2011 draft is a great place to start, as it's regarded by many as the most stacked class of all time, including players like Mookie Betts, Trevor Story, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Marcus Semien, and many more all-star and notable players. But none of those guys were top 10 picks. Even with all those names and plenty more all-stars that I didn't even mention, there hasn't been a top 10 close to this good since this draft. So let's dive into the top of the best draft class ever with the Padres' 10th overall pick. The Padres selected Corey Spangenberg 10th overall out of Indian River State, a junior college, after he hit nearly 500 with decent gap power and stole 33 out of 37 bags. He looked like a potential Gold Glove second baseman and leadoff hitter and signed for just under $2 million. In his first two pro seasons, 2011 and 2012, he had up and down results in the lower minors. After a promotion to AA in 2013, he broke out at the level in 2014 with an .835 OPS. Corey earned a roster spot in 2015 spring training, making the team as a utility player and starting most of his games at second base. His 2015 ultimately ended up being his best season with the Padres, although he was limited to just 108 games, which would become a continuing theme throughout his career. He tore his quad and missed most of the 2016 season before having a mediocre 2017, defending poorly at third base. 2018 was the season that Corey cemented himself as a quadruple A player, having his worst big league stats and his best AAA stats, and the Padres didn't feel the need to keep him around. The Brewers picked him up for depth, and although he was a solid glove at second base, his hitting was pretty much unplayable, leaving him without any big league offers after 2019. He signed up with the Lions of MPB, where he's played pretty well ever since. Corey made the league and was serviceable at times with the Padres, but San Diego missed out on some big-time players in the next few picks, although their player development during the era didn't make it easy for prospects to succeed. After hitting .771 with 22 homers and 20 doubles in just 30 games his senior year at Arlington County High School, the Cubs drafted Javier Baez as a middle infielder. After only playing 5 games at rookie ball in low A in 2011, he impressed at A ball in 2012, displaying loads of power and speed at just 19 years old. He struggled at high A when he was promoted there that year, but he conquered the level in 2013 and earned a promotion to double A, where he hit even better. This led to him being a top 10 prospect going into 2014, and after he crushed AAA pitching for most of that year, he earned the call on August 5th and homered in his first game. Despite never facing much struggle in the minors, Javi did not immediately adapt to the bigs, striking out at extremely high rates and walking at extremely low rates. His tools were evident, but he was clearly still raw. Thus, he began 2015 at AAA, where he hit very well, but he missed some time with the injury issues and the death of his sister. But he would be back in the bigs in September, playing a solid second base and hitting at about a league average level. He even made the postseason roster, going 4 for 5 with the homer and a stolen base and the NLDS. Although the Cubs were swept by the Mets in the championship series, it was clear that they had a solid core with Baez at the center of it. While his bat was still not fully developed, 2016 was the year that Baez became a starting caliber player, thanks to a stellar defense all across the infield. He was a big-time contributor during the Cubs' World Series run, winning the NLCS MVP against the Dodgers. His 2017 hitting stats were nearly the same as the prior season, except with some more pop. Despite being a solid player, Baez was still more flashy than productive. But 2018 was his true breakout season. He finished second in MVP voting, homered 34 times, had an .881 OPS, and played some great defense once again. 2019 was another similar season, except Baez was a full-time shortstop and played incredible defense. But his 2020 was a disaster, which isn't unique to him. He's having another above-average season power-wise and defense-wise, but his plate discipline is still amongst the worst in the league, as he is amongst league leaders in strikeouts and still barely has any walks. If he can mature as a hitter, he'll be one of the best shortstops in the game, but he's still limited as long as he can't draw walks. All of that aside, he was still a fantastic pick for the Cubs, and he directly contributed to their first World Series in over a century, and it's going to be interesting to see if they keep him around long-term, as it is his contract year. In many ways, Francisco Lindor and Javi Baez have parallel careers. Both are Puerto Ricans who moved to Florida in middle school, were drafted back-to-back, play incredibly at shortstop, and both helped their team to the 2016 World Series. The main difference is that Lindor was always considered lighter hitting but more polished, and he can also switch hit, something that Baez can only do in blowouts. After the Indians took him 8th overall, Francisco essentially hit better and better as he rose through the minors before getting the call to the big league club in 2015 with a high floor of fantastic shortstop defense. Despite never having an OPS over 800 in a minor league season, he hit very well in his first 99 games, finishing second in Rookie of the Year voting with an .835 OPS. His 2016 was a slight step back in terms of power, but he was still an above average hitter who played great defense at a premium position, and he, much like Baez, had a massive championship series on his team's path to the big dance. Although the Indians lost in Game 7, Lindor was certainly the face of the franchise that looked poised to make title runs year in and year out. In 2017, he finished 5th in MVP voting, and in 2018, he was even better, homering a career-high 38 times and finishing with an OPS of 871. The Indians were bounced in both of those years in the division series, and their cheap ownership did not do much to supplement Lindor or the starting pitching talent on the team. Cleveland missed the playoffs despite another premier season from Lindor in 2019. Francisco had an iffy season in 2020, and once the Indians got bounced in the wildcard round, they knew they either had one more shot to go with Lindor or they could trade him, since they were never going to pay him as much as he deserved or wanted. So, on January 7th, 2021, they shipped him and Carlos Carrasco off to the Mets for a package centered around Andres Gimenez and Ahmed Rosario. The Mets extended Lindor for 10 years and $341 million, making him the highest paid shortstop for the time being, although he did struggle mightily in his first couple of months with the club. He was a great piece for Cleveland, and they certainly hit on the pick, but in the end, they wasted their window to win with him and weren't willing to supplement his talent. Archie Bradley went 12-1 with an 0.29 ERA during his senior year at Broken Arrow High School in Oklahoma. He also hit .395 with 9 homers on their way to the state title. The D-backs picked him 7th overall with their second pick in the draft, and he was immediately considered a top 50 prospect going into 2012 after just 2 innings of rookie ball. While Bradley was solid at A-ball throughout 2012, striking out over 10 batters per 9, he struggled with his command, walking over 5 batters per 9. His 2013 was excellent, dominating high A-ball and AA with a combined ERA of 1.84. He was a top 10 prospect on every ranking going into 2014, but that season was somewhat disappointing as his walk rate was back over 5 per 9 innings. After beginning 2015 in the D-backs rotation and outdueling Clayton Kershaw in his big league debut, he suffered a facial fracture and shoulder tendonitis, which limited him to just 35 2/3 innings, most of which were ineffective. Bradley began 2016 at AAA and dominated in 7 starts, once again getting the chance to prove himself in the majors. Despite never giving up many homers in the minors, pitching in the hitter-friendly confines of Chase Field did not do him many favors. He had a whip over 1.5 and gave up a homer every 9 innings, leading to an ERA just above 5. His control issues and the D-backs' improved rotation led to the team moving Bradley to the bullpen in 2017, where he excelled and put together his best season to date, capping it off with a 2-run triple late in the wildcard game. His 2018 and 2019 seasons were decent but unspectacular, as he remained in the bullpen as a setup man and part-time closer. 2020 was a decent short year for him, in which he was traded to the Reds for their unsuccessful playoff run. He signed with the Phillies before this season and has not been great. Bradley is certainly talented, and had the Diamondbacks been able to develop him as a starter, this pick would have been a lot better. But considering the guys who were drafted after him, the pick was somewhat disappointing in retrospect. Anthony Rendon is the only university position player drafted top 10 in this draft, out of Rice University, and the Nats certainly hit on the pick. His stock fell after repeated serious right ankle injuries, including one at the end of his time at Rice, which delayed his pro debut until 2012. Unfortunately, he sprained his left ankle early in the season. He was only able to play 43 games in the year across 4 levels of the minors, hitting well in the low minors before struggling in his 3 weeks of AA play. He began 2013 at AA, where he hit very well and earned the call when third baseman Ryan Zimmerman went down with an injury. He played mostly second base, although he did see time at third and even a few games at shortstop. 2014 was a big-time breakout year, as Rendon emerged as a main piece of the Nationals' young and dynamic roster by hitting for average, power, stealing bases, and playing a fantastic third base, resulting in a 5th-place MVP finish. He hit very well in the ALDS that year, although the Nationals lost to the eventual World Series champ Giants. Anthony struggled with injuries early in 2015 and could never get his bat going while starting at second base when he returned. While he could play second base, Anthony is a much better defender at third. He was the NL Comeback Player of the Year in 2016, and he followed that up with back-to-back excellent seasons in 2017 and 2018, both of which he hit over 300 with an OPS over 900. After Bryce Harper left going into the 2019 season, Rendon and Juan Soto were the only star bats left on the team, and they led the Nationals to the first World Series title. Rendon had easily his best season, finishing third in MVP voting with an OPS over 1,000 and 34 homers, all while playing great defense at third. He signed with the Angels after delivering a ring to the team that drafted him, and he struggled to stay healthy this year after a solid 2020 season. The Nationals will not trade this pick for anything, as he was a franchise cornerstone for years and excelled during their World Series run in 2019. Bubba Starling accepted a scholarship to play both baseball and football for the Nebraska Cornhuskers during his senior year of high school. He was also All-State in basketball in Kansas and was widely considered the most athletic prospect in the draft. As I mentioned in my 2011 prospects video, the Royals during this era always had top 10 picks and used the majority of them on high school position players. This draft was no different. Starling was drafted 5th overall as a center fielder, and agent Scott Boras got him a $7.5 million signing bonus, the second largest in draft history and the biggest for a high school player. He began to play rookie ball in 2012 and displayed solid all-around stats, including 10 homers and 10 steals in just over 50 games. The main weakness in his game was strikeouts, as he struck out in about 30% of his at-bats that season. This issue, paired with poor on-base stats, kept him in the lower minors until 2015, when he finally made the jump to AA and was added to the 40-man roster. At that point, it seemed like he was a hot start away from a big league promotion, but injuries and dreadful performance hindered him for 3 straight years at AAA, as he played just 137 games there from 2016 through 2018 and never had an OPS above 700. At age 26, Bubba finally had a healthy and productive season at AAA, and although it was fueled partially by good luck, he earned the call on July 12, 2019. He played 91 big league games for the Royals between 2019 and 2020 and did not find his groove at the plate, and he's been stuck at AAA all year thus far. His numbers look promising up to this point, so I hope he's able to find his way back onto the big league roster as a productive member of the Royals later this year after his Olympic run with Team USA. In some ways, Dylan Bundy is the antithesis to Bubba Starling. After being picked 4th overall out of Owasso High School, where he competed against Archie Bradley in the state championship, Dylan was signed and immediately added to the Orioles' 40-man roster at just 18 years of age. He began his first pro season in 2012 at A-ball and did not allow a single earned run through 8 starts, jumping him up to high A. While he wasn't perfect at high A, he was still excellent with a 2.84 ERA in 12 starts. His peripherals backed up his excellence as he struck out over 10 batters per 9 while walking under 3. He made 3 solid AA starts at the end of the year before getting the call to the bigs at just 19 years old, where he made 2 scoreless relief appearances for the big league club. While it took Bubba Starling 8 professional seasons to fulfill his big league dream, Dylan had done it in just over 100 innings pitched in his first season. With a mid-90s fastball that could touch 99, a wicked curveball, and a developing changeup, the sky was the limit for Dylan's future with the blossoming Orioles team, and he was a consensus top 5 prospect entering 2013. Unfortunately, he would only make 17 minor league appearances and 0 major league appearances over the next 3 seasons, including missing all of 2013 because of Tommy John. He then suffered a series of shoulder injuries in 2015. Going into 2016, Bundy was out of options and in a situation that was unthinkable just a few years prior. He was fighting to stay on the Orioles roster. That spring, he did enough to earn a spot on the roster as a reliever. About halfway through the year, they transitioned him back into a starter, where he impressed, including back-to-back games where he took no-hitters into the 6th inning. He pitched nearly a full season in 2017, starting 28 games with solid but not incredible numbers. His fastball velocity sat around 92 miles per hour, a significant drop-off from his pre-Tommy John surgery level stuff. At just 24 years old, Bundy needed to learn how to pitch to guys without his top-level stuff. 2018 saw him strike out nearly 10 batters per 9, although he gave up a league-leading 41 homers and saw his ERA spike to 5.45. He had another mediocre season in 2019, and it was clear that he would never be the same 19-year-old that shot his way through the minors in just a few months, but he managed to make nearly every start for 3 seasons without injury issues, so the rebuilding Orioles shipped him off to Anaheim. Dylan's 2020 season was one of the most surprising breakout years, as he became excellent at generating weak contact, allowed fewer homers, walked less guys, struck out more guys, and earned some Cy Young votes as the new ace of the Angels staff. Unfortunately, his 2020 numbers were fleeting, and so far this year, Angels fans shudder when they see Bundy as a probable pitcher. His home run rate mirrors that of 2018, but he's also walking more guys and striking out less. This all culminates with a career-low on-base percentage into a ghastly ERA well over 6 and a demotion to the bullpen after an embarrassing start at Yankee Stadium, just months after starting on opening day. Dylan's career has been a roller coaster up to this point, and injuries unfortunately sapped a lot of the talent that he possessed as a teenager. But the 1 2/3 innings that he pitched at just 19 years old in 2012 lead me to believe that the Orioles might have gotten the best player in this draft if only he were able to stay healthy. Now where do I begin? Well, he was the 2nd UCLA starter to be picked in this draft, and the 3rd collegiate starter to be selected. Since then, his performance on the field has been overshadowed by his countless off-the-field incidents, his brand and YouTube vlog, wild Twitter takes, showing up his manager on the mound, harassment of other users on social media, the largest salary in league history, his role as the face of the league-wide pitcher cheating scandal, and now, alleged sexual assault. Between all of this, Trevor Bauer set the record for best ERA plus in a season on his path to a Cy Young in 2020. So how did he get to this point, both the highest in terms of playing ability and the lowest in terms of reputation? Bauer was selected 3rd overall by the Diamondbacks in 2011, and since he was a college pitcher, the team immediately started him off at high A, and he was promoted to AA after just 9 innings. After beginning 2012 with an excellent stint at AA, he was promoted to AAA and then the majors. On June 28, 2012, Bauer became the first player in the class to reach the majors, just a year and change after the draft. He only got 4 starts as a spot starter, struggling to find his footing. In December of that offseason, Bauer was traded in a 3-team deal to the Indians, partially because of his unorthodox trading techniques. His 2013 began at AAA, where he struggled through most of the season with extreme walk rates. Bauer became a mainstay in the Indians' rotation as a back-end starter in 2014 and 2015. 2016 is when Bauer's notoriety first peaked, and it was for all the wrong reasons. During the ALCS, he cut his pinky finger while repairing one of his drones, missing his Game 2 start and being pulled early from his rescheduled start during Game 3 when the stitches opened up after just 4 batters. He also lost both of the World Series games he started that year. His 2017 was like the prior 3 seasons with an ERA just above 4, but this time he showed up in the postseason. Unfortunately for him, the Yankees came back from down 2-0 to beat Cleveland in one of the most exciting division series I can remember. 2018 was Bauer's big breakout, and Cleveland looked like it would march into the postseason with the best rotation in baseball. But Bauer got hurt at the end of the year, relegating him to relief duties during the ALDS, where he lost Game 3 of the Astros sweep. Bauer was traded to the Reds at the trade deadline in 2019 after firing a ball over the center field wall while being pulled from his worst start of the year. He struggled mightily in his first 10 starts as a Red. 2020 is the year that Bauer garnered the most notoriety, as he began vlogging the events of the strange season and pitching at the highest level while doing so. He showed fans inside the Major League clubhouse the ridiculous number of measurements he takes on himself, his pitching routine, and the overall vibe that the team flights and practices have. This was a great thing for the league in my opinion, and I think there are plenty of interesting personalities in the league who should make their own content. Unfortunately for MLB, their biggest social media personality was about to be in a whole lot of hot water. After winning the Cy Young Award, the Dodgers came calling, offering Bauer a contract that would net him well over $30 million per year over the next 3 seasons, and includes player opt-outs that force the Dodgers to pay him even more money if they are executed. Rumor has it that the Dodgers were paying for Bauer's secret sticky substance as much as his ability on the mound. But after a few weeks of the league-wide lethargic offense, the league began to crack down on foreign substances, and Bauer was seen as the poster child of the cheating pitchers. Even though he was still pitching pretty well without substances, his public image completely collapsed after a woman alleged that Bauer sexually assaulted her, and she provided gruesome photographic evidence of the incident. The league has since placed him on administrative leave. The D-backs gave up on him quickly, and this draft was a disaster for them looking back on it. They had 2 of the top 7 picks in the most loaded class ever, and ended up with a few solid years of Archie Bradley and 4 starts from Trevor Bauer. Maybe he could have helped them if he stayed, but he was pretty mediocre until 2018, and his performance improving has coincided with increased negative press. Who knows if he'll ever throw another pitch in the majors again. Dannyholtson is a name that you probably have never heard of, but he was a damn good pitcher. He led the Virginia Cavaliers to the College World Series semifinal in 2011, setting a program record for the most strikeouts in a season, and graduated as Virginia's all-time leader in wins and strikeouts. The big lefty had a 4-seamer in the mid-90s, a 2-seamer, a slider, and a changeup, all of which were big league caliber pitches, making him the most big league ready prospect in the class. Picking him was a no-brainer for the Mariners, who hadn't made the playoffs in a decade and needed another top of the rotation starter to pair with King Felix Hernandez. He signed a 5-year deal with $8.5 million guaranteed, including a signing bonus upwards of $6 million. His pro debut was in AA in 2012, where he excelled to the tune of a 1.19 ERA. His quick promotion to AAA was well earned, but his performance there was nearly the opposite of his 13 AA starts. He walked 8 batters per 9, which led to an ERA of 6 in 12 starts. Control had never been a problem for him before, and he began 2013 at AAA, seemingly beyond the control issues. Little did he or the M's know, after his 6th star of the year, he only had 36 1/3 innings left in his professional career. Danny tore both his labrum and rotator cuff in his throwing shoulder in 2013 and missed all of 2014 rehabbing. He suffered a few setbacks in 2015 and needed another shoulder surgery in 2016. After sitting out of 2017 to earn his degree and continue rehabbing his shoulder, the Cubs signed him as a minor league free agent. In 2019, after limited but excellent performance as a reliever in AAA, Danny finally got the call to the bigs. He struck out the side in his first inning of work against the Brewers and would make 5 more appearances for the Cubs, not allowing a run. He didn't pitch in the bigs in 2020 after re-signing as a minor leaguer, and he retired after the season, joining the Cubs front office. Danny still had some pretty nasty stuff at the end of his career, and probably could have kept chasing his dream if he wanted to. And the fact that he made it to the show, after all the surgeries and only throwing 3 dozen innings in half a dozen years, shows what type of competitor that he is. He probably would have been an asset for Seattle had he stayed healthy, but injuries are a part of sports that are unavoidable. The $324 million man himself, Garrett Cole went 1st overall out of UCLA, 3 years after going 28th overall to the Yankees in 2008 and not signing. The Pirates had the 1st overall pick after losing 101 games the season prior, and Cole was the consensus #1 prospect going into the draft. His fastball sat in the high 90s and his slider in the high 80s, as well as a changeup to go along with it. There were some even comparing him to the super prospect Steven Strasburg at the time. He was already a first rounder out of high school, and after a dominant stint at UCLA, he was only more polished. Cole signed for $8 million, the biggest signing bonus ever at the time, and he began his career at high A ball in 2012. After a good start there and a great stint at AA AA, Cole made his first start at AAA to cap off the season. Some thought that he'd have a shot to make the Pirates roster with an impressive spring, but he began the year at AAA. Garrett started 12 games there, and despite a pretty high walk rate, he had a 2.91 ERA, good enough to get the call on June 11, 2013, after some injuries to the big league rotation. He impressed enough during the season to get 2 starts in the division series against St. Louis, and although he showed up and pitched well in both games, he was credited with the loss in the Game 5 rubber match. After missing a few starts and having slightly down numbers in 2014, Cole broke out in 2015, finishing 4th in Cy Young with a 2.60 ERA in 208 innings. From what I understand, the Pirates pitching coaches wanted Cole to pitch to contact rather than striking batters out. This shows in his numbers from 2016 and 2017, as he allowed more hits, struck out less guys, and threw his knockout slider less and less. This philosophy worked for non-strikeout guys like the aging AJ Burnett, but for young flamethrowers like Cole, mixing in breaking balls can make the fastball impossible to hit. The Pirates began the rebuild in 2017 and traded Cole to Houston that offseason. There, he threw more sliders than ever and picked up some extra spin and velo on his fastball, leading to back-to-back ridiculous seasons, including a 20-game regular season win streak and decisions. Although he didn't pick up a ring with Houston, he was excellent in the 2019 postseason. The Astros unlocked his full potential, leading to his 9-year, $324 million contract with the Yankees that he grew up rooting for. Although his ability has recently been questioned since the crackdown on foreign substances, his stats with the Yankees have still been fantastic, and he still leads the AL in strikeouts and strikeouts per walk. Garrett Cole was the right pick for Pittsburgh, but their philosophy didn't play to his strengths and capped his potential until he was moved to Houston. It's truly hard to cover everything amazing about this draft, but the guys we just looked at all made the MLB, and all but 2 of the first rounders in this draft have made the league thus far. Everyone in the top 10 has contributed at the big league level for at least one season, besides Starling and Holtson, who literally couldn't pitch for most of his pro career. The D-backs picked 2 talented players, but did not get the best out of Bauer and couldn't develop Bradley as a starter. Guys like Cole, Rendon, Baez, and Lindor are all still superstars, and their combined career earnings are going to top $1 billion by the time they retire. With the 2021 draft tonight, I think we might get the best top 10 since 2011. Maybe 10 years from now, I'll be making a video covering the class headlined by Jack Leiter and Jordan Lawler. If you've made it this far, I would truly appreciate if you'd left a like and subscribed. Over 90% of my views come from people who aren't subscribed, and it would help me out a ton. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, that's baseball.